Okay, so let's get started. Basically, what this is going to be is just kind of questions. You've seen the questions, so just very casual, answer the questions as well as you can. Someone's in my backyard, sorry. And yeah, so I'm going to do it kind of one question per person, and then we'll cycle back. And yeah, we'll get started. So I'll start with Fernando. So what did you appreciate most about the school during your time there? And how has your perspective on that changed now that you have some distance from the school?
Thank you for the question. And if I were to pick a single thing that I appreciated the most during my time there, I would definitely have to go with how the school helped me settle into a new country at my own pace, making it an experience that is as close to seamless as possible, despite all the obvious roadblocks and struggles that come with immigrating and moving away from your parents into a faraway land. And Hamid has definitely been helping me since the very beginning, from getting a debit card up until the whole university application process, such as writing college application essays and choosing the appropriate university that fits my interests. Even my parents have pointed out the same thing, expressing how grateful they still are for the support that the school has provided to the students during their academic careers. And now, after a year since my graduation and about to enter my second year of university, I still hold the same belief that having someone beside you uh, during the entire process of university application and immigration is definitely as close to priceless. And the appreciation for the support provided to me at OAT has only grown, since I felt overwhelmed by the low amount of babysitting that university provides to us, and the amount of information and instructions they flood us with. So yeah, and like I said, they try to keep babysitting to a minimal so that they let the students be at fault for their own actions and lack of research. And now I see the same thing happening to incoming first year international students that, due to the lack of proper guidance, have been struggling with the process of writing college essays, applying to universities, and programs that are best fit to their interests.
Amazing. Yeah, thank you. I definitely can, what's the word? Sympathize with the lack of babysitting when one moves to university. It's overwhelming, like you said. So let's move to Tim. What do you appreciate most about the school, and how has it changed from your first year?
Um, well, some things that I really enjoyed about the school overall through the 1 year that I've been here is, well, first of all, I feel like the thing I felt like stood out the most were the teachers. I there's a big difference between the teachers at a public school and the teachers at this school, mainly being that, well, there is, first of all, I feel like you connect with the teachers at this school a lot better. So I had a very easy time going through difficult courses that normally I would have a lot of trouble. I would have a lot of trouble with, and courses that have very confusing material. I feel like the teachers are there to sort of guide you and give you the sort of right process to going about those courses. Um, there is a very high level of involvement that the teachers provide in classes, so I feel like no student is left behind, and that's something that I really enjoy. Another thing is just the size of the school in general. It makes for a very, very valuable, in my opinion, social dynamic. So I remember on the first day, I mean, I remember the school wasn't even open, and I had already made friends with someone sitting in the hallway waiting for it to open. And I feel like, with such a small size for the school, it's very, very easy to make friends with everybody, and it's sort of very easy to have a lot of people to fall back on and ask for help. Yeah, and I feel like another thing is that the school really sets itself apart from all of the other public schools. So, yeah, it's a very unique experience. It's something that I really wouldn't match to any public school out there. Yeah, no, that's about it.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with like the sense of community. I felt that when I went to OIT a long, long time ago. So Vanessa, why did you choose the school originally? In what ways is the school what you expected, and in what ways is it not?
Well, before enrolling, my son did go to a large public school for high. Now I know high school is a transition, but the experience was really tough. They were very large class sizes, and they didn't work well for him. He had no idea, because the general school was so big, he didn't even know where he was going to find classes, and it was just so hard to meet, or even in his impression, he didn't even like the other kids. So I know he would have settled eventually, but if we sort of stuck that out, but I think it was a really good idea to move to OIT. Basically, he would just seem so sort of lost, and the lonely factor. So what my biggest fear, and the reason why we changed right away, was because the fear was that he was an enthusiastic student, and when he wasn't happy in that environment, I was fearful he was going to lose that kind of enthusiasm for school. And once, I guess, assuming that once, a child doesn't like school and is sort of disengaged, it's really hard to get that back. So we switched right away. And he just instantly was this happy child again. He did well in classes. He liked the other students. Because the school's so small, he also he got friends from older grades, which I really liked. And I guess I didn't really hope or expect that he'd get this sense of belonging, but that was the big thing, that the school is so close knit, and that's why we chose it. I can't think of what the school wasn't, your question about what it wasn't what I expected, because I didn't really have these huge expectations going in. It was just such a pleasant, good experience from where we came from. I really approached the enrollment as sort of, let's just try it out and see. Yeah, that's it. Sorry, my answers might not be 3 minutes, but
Oh, no,
there we go.
Okay, it's perfect. Thank you. Yeah, I went to a big school as well. I'm pretty sure the same big school, and I left as well. So
Yeah, I'm just really glad we did it so quickly.
yeah,
He was so happy before, and then we had just like a little blip, and my reasoning for moving was that we didn't kind of lose him and change his impression of school, and that's exactly what we got.
That's huge. Yeah, that spark is so hard to get back, definitely. So good on you. All right, back to Fernando. So what, to the best of your knowledge, most differentiates this school from others? You're muted.
Sorry.
No.
Well, to kind of point out the thing that already stands out the most about the school, and I think that brings in most of the parents towards OAT, is probably the school size, the small school size. And I believe that Timothy has already mentioned. To point out the one thing that stands out is the small school size. But to most students and parents, what differentiates the most is what already Timothy also mentioned, is how the school size makes it possible for us to connect with other students way faster, and makes it possible for teachers to know their students better and know where they struggle the most, which would be far from possible in larger class sizes. I've been to larger schools, not as large as public schools, but I have been to larger class sizes and I know how it's like. So that being able to connect with teachers and for them to truly know you is very, very valuable. I also think that engaging activities outside of the classroom that they provide that make the learning experience more interesting, but at the same time test your knowledge on concepts learned, is also something that really stands out. This is also due to the school's focus on STEM, which directs the attention of coordinators towards formulating interesting activities that for students that are not only fun, but also, like I said, test your knowledge on concepts learned in class.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think this focus is great because it focuses both the teachers and the students. It's great.
I am very sorry for my dog. He
No,
is
it's okay. It's
barking in
adds
the background.
excitement. All right, so Tim, same question. What would you say, to the best of your knowledge, most differentiates the school from others?
Well, I mean, okay. The two main things that I feel like we've already gone over are how well, okay. Fernando went over the size, but I think the two really important things are the teachers and the size. But there are a couple of other things to talk about. So Fernando mentioned that the school has a lot of focus on STEM. And I think one of the best ways that the school sort of puts that into motion is how it involves students in extracurriculars. Um, so the school is very sort of tightly knit with the University of Waterloo. And they run the computing and math competitions. And that's actually, in my opinion, one of the most valuable things that the school offers, because these competitions really help to not only give students an opportunity if they wish to go to Waterloo or other, computing or math related programs, to have that sort of experience in their belt, but it also just sort of it provides relevant practice to students who are interested in the STEM field, because computing and math are very, very important. So I'm really, really glad that the school sort of pushes students to involve themselves in these extracurriculars. Another sort of standout feature of the school is the principal in particular. Now, I know he isn't here, he joined earlier, but honestly, I think Hamid sort of makes the experience so much more personalized for every single person. So someone going to a large public school, everyone will have the same experience because they're all going to the same teachers and they're all doing the same courses together. But I feel like at this school, every student before they come into the school gets to sit down with the principal and gets to sit down with Hamid and talk about what their expectations are going forward, how they want to start the year, how they want to finish the year, what their goals are. And so it really serves to answer a lot of questions that students might have going into the year. And that's another thing I'm really, really glad the school does different. And just going back to extracurriculars, it's also that small group dynamic makes clubs and just in general connecting outside of the school much more valuable, in my opinion. So the clubs that, well, unfortunately this year we've had COVID, so there have been a couple of online clubs, but not very much. But I feel like in general, this extracurricular involvement allows a lot of us to grow closer together. So before COVID had begun, we had a few clubs, and they were all very, very, very just fun experiences, to sort of connect with other students. So yeah, I mean, this school really, I really couldn't compare it to any other school. It's so unique in all the different things that it does, and yeah.
Definitely. I ran the debate club earlier this year, and I can say that it was a huge kind of boost to just me as well. But I think the students, it was like a great sense of community, even though we were all so far away from each other. So yeah, definitely. All right. So Vanessa, what was the biggest impact you think that the school has had on your child?
Well, I'd say confidence. He was always confident with technology, but not like an overall academic confidence. And so he was just like, he thought of himself as like good at one thing, right? Like, and that's it. When he came to the school, and he did really well in, I think it was the tech design and the computer science, those types of classes. The thing I noticed is that his confidence actually just kind of, it was an overall confidence. Like he became more confident in all his classes. I think because he was like in his world of techie, he sort of felt, I don't know, I think he felt like or thought he was smarter or something than he was before, because he sort of, it's also in high school, you get like an actual grade, whereas in like primary, you're getting like, meets expectation, the E and the N or whatever the letters are. So he was getting actual grades and doing well. So I think that now he doesn't get good grades, I'll just say, overall in all subjects, but it doesn't seem to affect his like engagement and that confidence. He's still like, I don't know, he just thinks he's really good at all the subjects, or it doesn't feel bad about any subjects. And it doesn't matter if some of them he isn't getting good grades in, it doesn't seem to affect that. I think the teachers, mentioned before by the others, is that the teachers connect with the students when it is such small groups. I hope that kind of continues as the school develops, because I imagine when you're in such a small group, the students can't just check out because it's so collaborative. You can't just not be involved in the classes. So yeah, I'd say that. Confidence, if I were to sum it up in one word.
Amazing. Yeah, no, definitely. I had Bruce in one of my classes, his geography class, and it was great. I could see that confidence in him, definitely.
Yeah, and I don't think he got like an A, but he's still like, I'm so good at geography. So I mean,
yeah, I think it's exactly what you were saying, that sense of community and that sense that you can't just shut off, and so you have to not necessarily pay attention, but be present.
Well, you have to be involved, and
Yeah.
so you feel like you're doing it, I guess.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, definitely. Thank you. All right, so we'll go back up to the top. So Fernando, if the school were to be represented as a single person, what would its personality be like in 3 words, and why?
That is an interesting question, to say the least.
Mhm.
But so
Describe in traits, give it traits, I guess.
definitely, yeah, I kind of get what you mean. So, well, if I were to list out some characteristics of OET as if it were a person, a student, I would start by describing them as caring. The school can create a welcoming environment for all of its students, independent of their nationality, and caring for their academic performance and overall health and wellness. And taking school to field trips and trying to interact directly with them makes it possible to create a sense of community between students and teachers that has already been previously mentioned before by both parents and students. So you know that this is something that really stands out to everybody. Well, secondly, I think I would describe them as attentive. The school has always been quick to make changes if necessary, and always looking for feedback from both parents and students, and looking for ways on how to improve. the school's small size makes it possible to react faster to feedback and to make the necessary changes for a more pleasurable learning experience, which would take far longer in a larger school, since changes have to move to higher ups and have to be brought up in meetings, and eventually maybe they'll actually be voted on or brought up. While in a smaller school, each student's opinion matters for all changes. And the school is always attentive for all the needs of the students, including the help that they provide to international students for settling in a foreign country, which I've already mentioned before. And finally, I would describe them as extroverted. As mentioned before, the school also tries to create a community between students and teachers through extracurriculars activities, which Timothy also has already mentioned, such as school trips, gym classes, math and computing contests, and etc., because there are way more than that. And these create a more relaxed environment in contrast to what you generally see in the larger schools, where there is this almost bureaucratic atmosphere between the school personnel and students, which is understandable, but inevitably this leads us back to the main problem in the larger schools, where students are generally treated as just another number or just another students, and teachers don't seem to truly care for the students, for the success of the students. So yeah, that's about it.
I like it. Those are some good adjectives, good traits.
Thank you.
All right, so Tim, same question. If the school were to be represented as a single person, what would its personality be like? Using 3 words and why?
So I'm with Fernando. This question is a bit like interesting, I guess, because it's kind of hard to quantify that into just 3 words. But to the best of my ability, well, I'd say to start off, I feel like knowledgeable is just a sort of an all-around really good way to describe how the school works. I mean, there really isn't a lot of confusion when it comes to learning courses, and this is from the perspective of a student, someone who currently goes there. I feel like there are it's not really difficult to learn courses at this school because you have teachers who know so much, and it's funny, I never would have seen myself enjoying physics, but here I am because there is so many resources to learn from, and there's really very little confusion when it comes to this stuff. Another thing that I sort of feels like applies is, or for my second word would be like empathetic. So and what I mean by that is that the school itself and the teachers really understand the process of being a student. So in my opinion at least, they've put themselves in our shoes as students when making the courses and when teaching, because I feel like every sort of pitfall that I generally run into in a public school as far as learning goes, so there are many major things, many minor things, I feel like it's all accounted for when I'm learning at this school, and I really don't have a lot of trouble moving forward through the many courses that I have in a year, just because I feel like the teachers understand what it's like to be a student, and that's why I feel like it's a very empathetic experience as far as learning goes. And I feel like the last thing that I need to mention, or like the last word, would just be like friendly overall. I mean, I just there I like all the people that work at the school. Like I really enjoy I enjoy working around Hamid. I enjoy working around all the teachers. So every teacher that I've had this year has been absolutely fantastic. And it's really just an enjoyable experience. I will say from experience, I've had high school teachers that I've really, really disliked, and none of the teachers here even come close to fitting the bill for that. It's learning is made like very, very simple, and the teachers are not like teachers in public schools who tell you that they're not going to be holding your hand, and they tell you that you're on your own learning this course, and I'm just here to show you the material. That's not the case with this school. There is a lot of support from the teachers, and I genuinely feel like I'm probably closer to a friend with most of the teachers than I am as a student, because they've taught the course in such an effective way that it's just sort of a sort of this intellectual back and forth. That's what classes are, and that's what I really, really enjoy about this school. But yeah, I mean, it was a pretty difficult question to answer. I'll be honest with you. I mean, I really, there are a lot more words I would like to use, but yeah, no. If I had to bring it to 3, I would probably say those 3. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome. Thank you. I love that idea of the intellectual back and forth for sure. I remember that same feeling when I went to OAT for sure. So yeah. Okay, so Vanessa, what does your child have to say about the school? How do they feel about OAT?
I thought I was going to get the other question. Yeah. What would he say? Well, when I ask him about school, he tells me he doesn't really go into like what he learned. He'll tell me something that happened, something that day, or something that happened in class, or something about a person. He really I mean, I know I feel like we keep going over the small class thing, but he really enjoys like these small classes. Like they are as low as 5 kids, and he's become so close with other students and developed good relationships with his teachers. So I think what he would say is, when I hear him speaking to his friends at the most common, he has friends from primary school, but they're all in the key schools around us, the public schools. And when I hear him talking, he just has this sort of a lot of school pride. I hear him describing this school to his friends from these other high schools, and he's almost like boasting, like, he kind of, it's kind of, I think probably irritating to hear from the others, because he's bragging really when he talks about the school to others. So whatever he says, it's about what happened that day, and it's got some school pride sort of feeling about whatever he's saying.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's amazing. And it's good that he actually answers the question, how was school today? Because many students wouldn't. All right, so back to Fernando, we have, what one thing would you change about the school for the better if you had to choose something? You are muted.
You're muted again.
I'm very sorry. If I were to change any aspect of the school, I would possibly try to make better usage of what sets the school apart from anywhere else, which then again is a small number of students. The small school size makes it possible for coordinators to treat students as an individual and not just as another number in a large classroom. And I'm not saying that they're not making good usage of it right now. Well, during my experience in OET, it was always, I had no complaints. But if I'm looking back, if I were to look back and if I were to correct something, I would suggest for coordinators to have a better organization of what are the interests for each student, meaning what kind of maybe university or college program they're interested in, and what courses, marks, or even projects these programs look for. Because seeing from the perspective of a university student, like I said, it's almost overwhelming how they throw everything at you whenever you leave high school, and how yeah, how much they demand from all these students, and being able to be ahead and not get surprised about how much they actually demand from you. That would really like give a huge head start to all of OIT students. So all of this information, like I said, is crucial for getting accepted and doing well in your program of interest and maybe even future career. And speaking from, yeah, and like I said, speaking from experience, researching about all of this as a student may be quite overwhelming. So therefore, this guidance through the process from someone that already has experience and has guided other students through the same process would be extremely valuable.
Yeah. Cool. No, that's, yeah, definitely. I'd say it's always the more help, the better, I'd say. All right. So Tim, same question again. What one thing would you change about the school for the better if you had to choose something?
So I'll be honest with you, I really dislike criticizing this school because it really does do a lot of things right. Um, Honestly, I think as far as the courses go and as far as learning goes, I'm pretty satisfied. I don't think I would really want to change most of that. I think mainly what I would really like to see more of is just in the wake of COVID, having not been able to spend a lot of time around my classmates, I really feel like the school, the teachers and the students alike could benefit from more social activities, from more clubs, from more outdoor um, types of, activities and stuff. And obviously within restrictions and whatever. But it is, it has been a tough, it's been almost 2 years. It's like 1.5 years now in lockdown. And it really has impacted a lot of people's lives. And I feel like the school can make an effort to sort of help, in the wake of such a long lockdown by allowing for students to spend more time around each other in person when the opportunity becomes available. Because, as we, as it may have already been made obvious, clubs are very valuable to sort of the high school experience towards developing not only your social skills, but you're also just extracurricular talents, things that you enjoy. So I feel like, yeah, I think the most beneficial thing moving forward would be just more extracurricular, more social activities, more opportunities to spend time around other students. Yeah, no, that's the one thing that I would really like to see more of.
With these social events, like, are you thinking more like kind of like school dances and things like that, or is it still clubs that are more academic?
Honestly, I think both of those things fit the bill pretty well, because it's really not as much about what you're doing. It's more the fact that you're doing it together is kind of the valuable part of it, because it's yeah, it's not really that important what exactly is being done. It's more the fact that I feel like it would be very helpful to spend more time around the other students in the school.
Yeah, definitely. I remember when I went to OIT, I tried to plan prom. It didn't go very well. We didn't end up having it, but I tried. So yeah, I agree. Okay, so we're going to Vanessa. For some reason, the questions are switched, so we're going back to the personality question. If the school were to be represented as a single person, what would its personality be like? And only 3 words, and why?
And may I just add something to what everyone else just answered, because it had my mind going. I've heard Bruce, you're not asking me this, but I'm going to throw it in. I've heard my son mention, so what he liked the most about the structure of the school when he started was that it was semestered, but then math and science went all year round. And this year with COVID, that didn't happen. And so if I could change anything, I would go back to that model, because there's a real struggle to get, if you haven't done sort of, for instance, math in 6-9 months, and then you're going back to it. I really like that. Well, he really liked that model before. So that would be my suggestion on change, even though you didn't ask me. Unsolicited. Okay, so my 3 words, I would say the first one would be personable. I picked personable because the school, I think we already know this, but feels very close knit. And so everyone's on a first name basis. And it kind of makes it feel like a family. So that's why I'm saying personable. Focused because the school also is so goal oriented to the kids' future. To set the kids up for it, really, there's a lot of effort to set the kids up for success in post-secondary right off. So in grade 9, you're invited to go, I guess, to the speaker things about the universities, or even on the field trips. So it's kind of instilled in them right away of this goal. They get to watch the graduating students get things like, the school has a lot of kids that get scholarships, and the younger kids get to see that. So it's also kind of adds to what they're achieving too, I think. Because the kids hear about the success of the graduates, it doesn't even have to be a scholarship, just university acceptance or some great program. I think that they start thinking this way really early. And I think that is just automatic, naturally going to keep you kind of focused. The third thing, I guess, would be young. The school, it has been around for 10 years, but it is very much developing and growing. So that's why I describe it as young. When we actually started, which was only 2 years ago, the school only had grade 11 and 12. And my son was in the very first batch of the 9 and 10s. So now it's like the full high school that offers all grades. I've seen the school obviously move to another floor to get a bit bigger with these other grades. And I think the next move will probably increase the student numbers. I'm guessing maybe even the selection with more students and a bigger actual physical school, maybe the selection of subjects would even increase. So, because it's evolving and growing.
Yeah, no, definitely. Don't say 10 years. I went there when it first started. It just makes me feel old. Anyway, okay. Fernando, are you there? Okay, fabulous.
Yes.
So the next question, what would families find most surprising about the school?
Well, to the parents, I think one thing that will definitely surprise them the most is how reliable the school staff can really be for any kind of academic difficulty, well, and sometimes any difficulty at all. Being able to rely on someone to give your children the best possible advice is truly remarkable and comforting. And I believe that can be heard from the reviews from other parents that are pleased with the school's performance at this aspect, including mine. And looking back, I have the same opinion that having someone beside you for whatever academic difficulty you have is really, really, really like important and really sets the school apart. And all around, another benefit that comes from being a student at a STEM school, focused school, is the wide array of applications that come with the knowledge you get in class. Of course, you have the Ontario curriculum, but the school's focus is on STEM, and it gladly helps. You see, well, it helps. You can see them in how the school uses 3D printers that helps with the application of design and math. Science projects like bottle rockets that use your knowledge of physics and chemistry, maybe, or the incentive of participation in math contests that has already been mentioned, which are the best place to, math contests or computation contests from Waterloo, which are the best place to showcase your mathematical knowledge and computational knowledge. So that really surprises students and families in general.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's surprising what such a small school can do, for sure. All right, so Tim, same question again. What would families find most surprising about the school?
So I've already brought this up once, but I feel like it's really, really important that I do again. So I'll just speak from personal experience. When I first signed up for this school, or when my mom first signed me up for this school, rather, I expected to just show up on the first day and to just kind of do school for a year. And it surprised me so much when I ended up walking in a few weeks before the year started, and I sat down with Hamid. You know, the school was empty; there was no one else there, and I sat down with Hamid, and we spoke for maybe 30 or 45 minutes. And what sort of stood out to me about that was the fact that Hamid does this for every single student. He aims to make the experience as personalized as possible. So everyone who walks into the school will get a chance to sit down and talk about their expectations, what they want, going into the school, what they want coming out, what their university plans are, how they plan to I mean, there's a lot of things, and I think that's something that will really surprise a lot of families, is that your child is not just going to school. They're not just doing work. They are actually they're being given this experience by Hamid, where they are basically they're able to set expectations for themselves. They're able to talk about what they want for the rest of the year, and that's something that surprised me, and it surprised my parents a lot as well. And another thing that I think is really surprising, and was really surprising to my parents, is the sort of drastic improvement in motivation that I feel like a lot of people have coming from public schools. So I guess I'll just kind of put myself on the hot seat here for a second. I I had a lot of trouble in my old school, getting good grades and staying motivated and doing all the work. And I can tell you that from the first year of studying here, and it was like that. I mean, it was a drastic change. I had a lot easier of an experience interacting with the other students. I had a lot easier of an experience just learning all my courses in general, and my marks like doubled, I guess. I don't know how to describe it, but my marks went way higher, and it wasn't because of any like inflation or anything. It was because I was genuinely interested in what I was learning, and the teachers made it feel like such an involved experience. And I would say half of that would go to the teachers themselves being fantastic at what they do and actually helping the students out a lot, and the other part of it would be the fact that I knew what I was walking into the moment I stepped into those doors, because I had already sat down with Hamid and talked about how the school was going to work, how my experience throughout the year was going to work. And I think overall it was it was very surprising, to see that sort of change in behavior, because I did not expect to be so motivated and so interested in what I was doing. So it was surprising to me, and it was definitely surprising to my parents. I will tell you that. They're not here, but if I were to get my mom to walk onto the mic right now, she would tell you the exact same thing. So, yeah.
Yeah, I felt that same kind of type of motivation. I was at the same school as you know, and I took a math course with OAT, and the same thing happened, because I was learning, literally Hamid was my teacher, and the exact same thing happened, where I was not doing very well at said big school, and I went to OAT, and immediately my grades went up, because I was just so motivated, because it was so focused in such a small class. So yeah, definitely. All right, so final question for Vanessa. How would you describe the values of the school and the values of the families in the school community?
The values of the school, I think, are academic success. They want all their students to be successful after. a sense of family, but also, or that could also be said, a sense of community. I think those are the two big things. In the past, I have been asked to sort of provide a review on the and school community as a category has come up. And the one thing I struggle with that, because I don't know a single other family. So I couldn't speak to their values. I don't know one other parent. So I couldn't say, I would be assuming, but my values, I could tell you, and I would assume others parents would do the same, would be that I value this customized approach. I guess I guess I would go for almost everything in kids' education. I like that the school customizes. It's really about their strengths, right? So I know my two kids are completely night and day in strengths, and these kids are evolving. So we don't know what they're going to, really don't know what they're going to do. And I think preparing them in STEM that's a good education model, because it opens a lot of doors and a lot of different programs, a lot of different schools and colleges and universities. Like, it just opens up so many options. So it prepares them really well. My son he does ask me, I think because it's a pressure for every adult comes up to kids and asks them what they're going to do for a job or what school they're going to go to. And then he asked me, like, oh, to make the decision, like what would be a good job? What should I do? And I always change this conversation. Like, I shut that down. I hate parents that do that. And my response is much more something along the lines of like, well, we'll look at the programs. We'll look at what's interesting. I know that I even know that people completely change universities after 1 year, and you're still, what you think you're going to do might not be it, or you might get into it and not like it. So that's why this STEM, you've got options. Even adults, like they say jobs can last now 5 years and you switch into something completely different. Like, it's not just school. People do change and have more than one strength and have more than one interest and things they like. Just because you're strong in something, you might actually get into it and not like it. So this customized approach, I think, is great for students. Focusing on their strengths. And I think that the strengths of most students there is the STEM, those types of subjects. So if they're all strong in that, and the school and Hamid is really gearing the curriculum so much around them, it just prepares them so well for whatever they're going to do. And I guess my other big value is just encouragement. And that's another thing that they are getting. So yeah, that's it.
Yeah, so I guess going back to your very first statement, would you want kind of more of a parent community? Do you think the school would benefit from
I mean, that's the thing. I had to do sort of an online review, and that's a very standard question because it's for all schools, like with parent councils and all these things. And I mean, I'm not asking for it. If it happened, I'd be happy to be like involved, but I don't know that there's a big missing gap there.
Okay.
What we keep talking about is that it's this personalized thing with the students. The students have this community. The students are really in charge a little of their own education there. I don't think parent community, fine, good, that can only help maybe with the extracurriculars, because that's a lot for students in the school to be taking on. Like, you can get parents volunteering time and helping out with the other stuff, so that could be a benefit to the school. But I don't think that parents need to be involved in the academics and how the school is running, because that's just fine. So you could use parents for other things, but yeah, I don't need to meddle with other things.
Yeah, it's just as well, like in terms of building the community of the school, just having more of a community.
Yeah, and I've been involved in other previous schools in the past, and another big role that a parent community can do, which I assume every school could benefit from, is money. So there's always fundraising, that extra bit that you could use volunteers for could only help. Like, if you want to be offering, you mentioned school dances or these, a big wide range of different extracurricular clubs and things that are after hours or even weekend things, who knows, field trips, all that stuff can only be better with some funding. So parents could be involved in that. They could be involved in actual legwork and doing get some cheap labor. I don't know.
Goes to
Yeah.
work. There we go.
Take advantage.
All right, so last question for you two. So we have Fernando first. What advice would you give students just entering the school?
If I were to give a piece of advice to my former self that was just entering the school, just like the incoming students that are just entering the school right now, I would probably incentivize him to read and experience more things outside of the classroom by researching about possible hobbies and try new things. Because even if I end up finding these things boring or disliking them in general, at the very least, I would have tried. Unfortunately, it does not suffice to just spend a couple of days trying something new and only relying on the things that you learn at school. But like I said, everything in the world is not separate. So you'd be surprised to see how some things you learned in a course may be applicable in something else. And it truly is remarkable. So learning new things and seeing and trying out to see something that you found interesting in class and applying somewhere else, that already tests your knowledge and is very, very, very important for your learning experience in general. So, but unfortunately, it does not suffice to just briefly read about something and for just a couple of days and try and call it trying something new, since I believe that only by intensively investing yourself in a topic, you can truly know if you like it. Because whenever you pick up a new hobby, you start at what I would say like a honeymoon stage, where the novelty factor makes the experience more fun. But the ability to keep going even after then the early excitement fades, and it shows after that stage, it shows your interest in the topic. And luckily, you could even turn that into your career. And but unfortunately, I couldn't only advise future students about what is fun, but I would also need to remind them of directing their focus towards the academics and making good usage of what is put in front of you, considering the growing competitivity of getting to a desirable program and university. It's only growing and they're only making it harder. So I would like to tell future students to make great usage of the benefits of having teachers and staff that care about your academic achievements, making sure to always ask for help for questions, be it inside the class or about schoolwork or university or even careers, because I'm sure that Hamid could probably give you at least some advice. But like I said, take care about your academic, like put as much effort in your academics as possible, and make good usage of the direct contact with the teachers.
Yeah, I
And
think
that would about it.
help is really important. Definitely, asking for help is very, very, and not, people don't do it enough. All right, so same question, and then everything's done. So, Tim, what advice would you give to students just entering the school?
So this was the one question I was kind of looking forward to because I feel like I actually have the most firsthand experience with this. But if I were to give any advice, I mean, I think first and foremost, I remember being in a roundtable seminar, sort of similar to this, where we were talking to university students who had graduated from my old public school, and they gave the same advice, and it really sort of makes sense. And that advice is to make as many friends as possible. You can never go wrong with um, having as many close by friends as possible because there are so many different benefits of knowing the people in your classes. One, you have people to fall back on if you miss school days. You have people to ask for help and advice with your work without, having to ask the teacher, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but I'm just saying it is, it can be helpful to have friends to help you out with that. And also, I mean, at this age, school is the most social experience we have. Making friends in school is one of the best things you can do because you see these people every day. You want these people to be your friends because, like, well, you're going to be spending every day with them regardless. So I think that's first and foremost, like, my biggest tip. Another thing is, this is sort of following what Fernando said, like, join clubs, make sure that what you're doing, like, don't just focus on your curricular interests. Don't focus on just what's in your courses. Focus on everything. Focus outside of your courses on your interests, on pursuing maybe what you want to be your career later on. So it's always helpful to not just spend time doing things just from school, because school itself is helpful, but it's also good to have interests outside of that. And another thing, and this is a little bit more of a niche tip, but I feel like it is sort of fairly helpful. And that's that a lot of school is sort of just this rhythm of getting things assigned, doing them, and then getting more things assigned. So generally, the way I would see it working, and I guess math is the best representation of this, is every day you come in, you do a lesson, and then you get sent home with homework, and then you come back the next day to repeat the process. And what I will say is you need to make sure that you stay in that rhythm. So every time you get assigned something for homework, basically every time you get told to do something by your teacher, do it. Do not forget about it. It is like, now the thing is, I don't want to say it's an ultimatum. Like, I don't want to say you missed one assignment and you messed up. Like, you have to restart. Like, that's not how it works. But everything is so much easier when you just stay on top of it. So every day, make sure you check what you have due and you make sure that you get it done. And then the next day, do the same thing and just do it every day, because it takes an hour to do a homework assignment, maybe even less. But if you have 10 homework assignments, then you have to spend 10 hours doing them. So yeah, just make sure you stay on top of that rhythm, and make sure that, you aren't forgetting about the little things, because they add up and they're not hard to do when you do them in the moment. So that's another piece of advice that I feel like really helped. And yeah, I mean, I think overall it can be very difficult to stay motivated throughout the school year. And at the start of the year, it can be easier. I definitely noticed that at the first, I'll say the first 2 trimesters, it was a lot easier. The third one, you start to slip, you start to lose motivation. But you just have to stay committed, because in the end, like, whether you like it or not, you're gonna have to go back to school. So just sit down and get it done, and then don't think about it once it's over. So yeah, that's the best advice I can give to anyone going to this school. And I mean, I guess it's sort of general high school advice as well.
Yeah, I can tell you that's very much not niche. You have 2 universities nodding their heads very thoroughly right now. Stay on top of things. It's important. Definitely, yeah. Yeah, well, that's it. I'm very, very grateful that you guys were willing to do this. I think it was fun, in the definition of that. But yeah, if you guys have any questions, now would be the time. If not, thank you, and I hope you have a wonderful day.